Hi, Sarah. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean.
Brian's right next to me here. We're standing in a
okay.
parking lot.
You're doing a joint meeting?
Well, I'm next to him. We have other civic responsibilities.
I see. Well, hopefully this will be a quick meeting.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping.
Well, look at you. Hi.
Hello, Sarah.
Jim, how you doing? Did
I'm doing very well, thank you.
you have a good trip?
I had a marvelous trip.
Oh, good.
It was great fun. It was warm, which is always wonderful. And everything went well.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It is 7:01 p.m. and I will call the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting to order on Wednesday, April 20th. I am Sarah Mellish, the chair of the ZBA. I have with me tonight John Benares, Sean Zahn, Ryan Solacey, Jim Dietrich, and myself. So with that, and I believe Gail is on, yes, okay. With that, we will move to the agenda. And the first item is a new application. And I will open the public hearing for the application of Edward A. and Karen Crawley for a variance under sections 5.3, 5.6, and 7.46 of the zoning bylaw and/or other relief as may be necessary to install access stairs and a 28.8 foot long by 4 foot wide pier with a 10-foot by 10-foot landing at the end of the pier, supported by 12-inch diameter timbers, which encroach 4 feet into the side setback and 3.5 feet into the rear setback, where 15 feet is required at 94 Bridge Street, Assessor's Map 21, Lot number 5 in District E, filed with the town clerk on March 8th, 2022. I see Susan St. Pierre is
Hi, good
here.
evening.
Hi.
Yeah.
You ready to present the application to us?
Sure. So can I share my screen?
Oops, just a minute, let me set it up for you.
Okay.
You should be all set.
Okay. All right. Can you see that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so you just kind of described what we're here seeking variance from, and the property is in zoning district E. We're looking for side and rear setback variances. As I mentioned at the site visit, we consulted with the building inspector, and he told us that it would require rear and side setback variances as an accessory structure in the zoning district. And the setback requirement is 15 feet for both the rear and the side yard setback. It's an unusual lot, as those of you who are at the site visit, this is Bridge Street up here. And this is the dwelling. And to get to this other parcel, which is separated from the main parcel by the MBTA rail lines, you have to go through the backyard, go onto the neighbor's property through a right of way, and then across a dedicated right of way, across the tracks to get to this parcel highlighted in yellow here. This is an aerial view looking from Manchester Harbor towards Whittier's Cove, Tuck's Point here. And then this is the parcel here. It's pretty small, as you noticed when you were there, for those of you who went to the site visit. Here you can see the right of way. And we mentioned those old foundations from the old fish flaking operation that was conducted here in the early 1800s to the turn of the century. And that's what this parcel was part of historically. This is a bird's eye view looking down. This is the stone wall that we're going to be repairing. And then the pier is going to be going somewhat in this direction here. The property line to the east sort of goes like that. And then it sort of goes into a triangle over here. Here's another view of it, looking from the other side of the cove. This is an existing conditions plan. Here's the railroad right of way in this location. So here you can see the lot lines. Actually, this shows a projection of the lot lines into the water. But if you just forget about those projections and just look at the wall, you can see that it's a very small, irregularly shaped parcel of land. This is the proposed pier. And you already mentioned the dimensions, but I'll review them again. It's 38.8 feet long. And at the end of the 38 feet, there's a 6-foot wide landing here. We had originally proposed with the Conservation Commission to have that up on the land, but because they determined that area was salt marsh, we had to move it out over the water. And then we have a 22-foot long gangway leading to an 8 by 16-foot float. And both the gangway and the float will be removed seasonally. And I should mention that because the cove kind of bottoms out at low tide, they'll only be using this facility during higher tides. They have a mooring out in Manchester Harbor where they normally keep their boat. They're also going to have a hoist on the float here so that they can pick up they have a wooden dinghy. They can pick that up and put it on the float and their kayaks as well. Also, they'll be able to use the landing for that purpose too, for the kayaks and other storage. And I know some of the members were curious about the profile of the structure. So I included this. It was not included in the Zoning Board of Appeals application. But this just shows you starting from the land side, we'll be repairing the wall here. We're taking all the existing stones that have fallen onto the beach and that some that have fallen back onto the upland. We'll be replacing them back to the wall and then putting in some drainage stone here and backfilling. And then the Conservation Commission is requiring us to plant salt marsh species in this location. So we're about, I believe, 4 feet above the wall in this location. And then you can just see there it's pile supported structure. Here's the gangway and the floating dock is over here. The floating dock is designed with piles, and the piles have collars to make sure that the float never sits at the bottom on the mud to protect the resource areas. And then just as the last slide, and I also included this in our request for the variance, how we comply with the provisions of granting a variance. So I think, mostly it's, granting the variance for this unusual lot shouldn't take away from the intent of the zoning bylaw. It's an unusual location. There probably aren't too many, there's probably only a couple parcels that have a location like this in the town. The access to the site is very unique. It's the only portion of their property that has waterfront access. The shape of the lot, as I already mentioned, is unusual. It's triangular. And because of that, we can't meet the side. It's not very wide, so we can't meet the side setback on one side and the rear setback. And it should have no impact on abutting properties. They've discussed the pier project when they were previously going before the Conservation Commission with the abutter to the east, and they had no issues with the property, with the project. And there was an abutter who came to the site visit, and she stayed for a while and talked with us, and she also really didn't have any objections or issues with the project. And the hardship is that if you were to literally enforce the zoning requirements, they would not be able to use this portion of their property. And I think that's about it. Kind of quick. I don't know if you want me to go back to the plan, or I'll go back here.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm going to ask you to stop sharing your screen, because when you're sharing, I can't see anybody else.
Sure.
We'll ask you to pull it up again if we need to. Thank you. I will see if there's any questions from the board. Jim, do you have any questions?
Oh, he's muted.
Jim, you're muted.
Thank you for reminding me to. This is for the applicant's attorney. I can't tell from looking at this small drawing that was part of the package, but what is the side setback that you're in violation of, and how far away from it are you?
Okay, so the side setback requirement is 15 feet. And the rear setback requirement is 15 feet. And for both the rear and the side, we're 11.5 feet away.
So why don't you move the land portion closer to the stone wall and further to the, I think it's the west, but I'm not sure, so that you wouldn't need a variance.
I don't think it was possible to do that. And we also have to, in terms of the state Chapter 91 program, have, there's a setback requirement from riparian extended property lines into the water. So we were trying to minimize the impact on abutting properties.
I don't quite follow that. You have a fair amount of your structure raised on pilings to clear the wall. Why can't you move the land side where it ends, where the steps are, closer to the wall? That would get you further away, I believe, from the rear setback. Am I wrong about that? I can't tell because the drawing I have, it's very hard to read the dimensions.
Well, if we, wait, well, I'm not quite sure what you're saying, but are you saying put the end of the pier on the wall?
No, I'm saying moving the end of the pier closer to the wall. You're only short a few feet.
I think, Jim, I'm looking at a larger copy of this.
Okay,
And I think that even if they moved it closer to the wall, they would still be in the setback because of the triangular size of the lot.
Yeah, they come over this one, they'd be in the, yeah, they'd be over in the, and still fall within the setback.
Let me pull up a,
well, I see the 11 feet portion,
Yeah,
and you only need, it's actually 11.5 feet. You only need 3.5 feet.
yeah, I don't think that there's enough room to have the stairs get up to the pier.
Well, the stairs are running flat,
Yeah, Jim, it's not up to us to,
okay? Someone speaking.
Sean and Brian, are you trying to participate in this conversation?
no,
Oh,
nope, trying to read the plan.
okay. On the phone.
The stairs could be on the other side of where they are now, and you could move that, the end of that elevated portion. It looks like it could easily be moved 3.5 feet toward the wall, and you would be without needing a variance. And if the stairs are moved to the other side, you probably would be okay too. I mean, this is a convenient location, but is it absolutely essential to attain a variance? That's my question. It doesn't appear to be.
Susan St. Pierre, do you have a response to that?
I'm looking at the plan right now. If we were to move the structure towards the water, I think that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Closer to the wall. Yeah,
Closer to
in
the
that
wall.
direction.
If we moved the stairs, it would be really difficult to fit the stairs in. I don't think it'd be, it's not possible to have the stairs and meet the setback requirement. Even if we push the pier closer to the water. And we would also have to go back to the 3 other boards that we've already been to. And but I guess,
Well, that's not my problem. That's your problem. It seems like, first of all, it's running It's also running at an angle, which consumes more space. Instead of being perpendicular off the property line, which would further move the rear corner of it closer to the wall just by the fact you would be straightening it out. I just, variances are hard to come by. And it seems like this could have been laid out in a way that you wouldn't need one. All you need is a special permit. I'm not opposed to it. I'm just opposed to using variances to solve problems that could be solved in other ways.
Well, I mean, I'd have to look at it, but I really don't think we'd be able to fit the stairs without encroaching on the setback on either side. And I mean, there's a slope behind. You were at the site visit. You saw how that lot is not very deep. So there is a slope that goes up to the MBTA line. So there's, not a lot of room to put like the stairs, say, behind the pier. And that would also encroach on the rear. That would already encroach on the rear setback line. I mean, if you want to continue the hearing, I can take a look at it and look to see if there's some way we can lay that out. But we also tried to balance that with there are property line, when you're on a waterfront, there are property lines that extend into the water. And that's called a riparian property rights. And the state Chapter 91 program likes you to try to maintain a 25-foot setback from those projected property lines. So part of the reason why this pier and gangway was aligned the way it was to maximize the distance from the easterly property line. But if you want to continue the hearing, we can try to see if we can lay this out in a different manner.
Can I just say that, I'm sorry to chime in here, and I'm sorry for being late, but just from my perspective, looking at this as a terrible boater, I would prefer to have the dock as it is versus closer to that wall, because once you get a little closer to that wall, then, there might be situations where, you might be, have to bail out, so to speak. So as a boater coming in and out of that dock, to have more clearance away from that wall than being closer to it, that's what I would prefer. Again, as, someone who boats a little bit. So from my perspective, yeah. No, I was gonna say, just from my perspective, the way that it's angled out and away from that wall, I'm okay with that.
Okay.
If you need to clear it, as a boater coming in from, I guess, the village side of the harbor.
The other issue is that if you look at the float, and I'm sorry, the plans were not a good scale, but we tried to keep the floating dock landward of the mean low water line. So pushing everything forward pushes everything out more into the cove. It was kind of a balance of a lot of factors. And it wasn't just haphazardly put here. I mean, we worked with the Conservation Commission. We had a different design. They made us change it. We went to at least five hearings with the Conservation Commission. And this is what the design that kind of fell out of that.
And Susan, in terms of your process with the Conservation Commission, are you complete with them, or do you have more steps to go? Okay.
Yeah, we complete with them, and actually DEP received a call, an anonymous call, and they came out and did a site visit because they thought they might appeal the decision. And when they came out and looked at the site and looked at the plans in more detail, they decided they weren't going to appeal it, and the Conservation Commission decision stands as it was approved. We also had to go to the planning board to get a special permit, because they require a special permit for any projects proposed within Chapter 91 jurisdiction.
You're saying that the pier and the decking is at elevation 9.13.
Yeah.
How does that compare to I see you have the mean low water line. How does that compare to high tide?
High tide's about 4, 3. We had to, we have all these things we have to balance. So because we're going over salt marsh, which we didn't really think it was salt marsh, but I guess it is. We had to reduce the width of the pier. And then we had to increase the height of the pier, which made the stairway get bigger. Because for every 1 foot in width of the pier over salt marsh, you have to have it 1 foot above the salt marsh to allow light and penetration, sunlight, so that the vegetation can grow. So there was a lot of balancing of different factors in laying this out.
If I understand you correctly, the reason it's so high then is because of the width and the requirement to have it to be so high above the salt marsh?
Yes. We had a 5 foot wide pier originally, and it was closer to the ground. And then we had to raise it to be 4 feet above the ground.
Was this an issue with the Conservation Commission?
Yes, and it's also, there is a guide for small piers and docks, and that the state DEP publishes. It's kind of old, but they still go by it. And that's one of the sort of the guidelines that they go by. And the Division of Marine Fisheries is the agency that wrote a letter when we submitted our application to the Conservation Commission. And they're the ones that said it was salt marsh, even though our wetlands, we didn't think it was, but so we said, okay, it's salt marsh. And then we had to go back to the drawing board.
Seems like there's a lot of good reasons why it even shouldn't be built at all.
Well,
If
it's
you're
not
going to
so
lift it, it's going to be usable only during high tide or
Mhm.
higher tides.
Correct.
You don't really have easy access to it. In fact, access to it is almost unsafe because you're passing over the railroad tracks. And I realize there's not a lot of trains going back and forth, but nevertheless, it seems to me just really a poorly conceived idea to get to claim a waterfront lot and to extend that conception of a waterfront lot by building a pier. I have issues with this.
Well, it's allowed under the state Chapter 91 waterways regulations. It's allowed under the state and the local wetland regulations. And the planning board approved it, and we're here tonight seeking setback variances.
Sean and Brian, do you have any comments or questions?
Good.
No, I'm listening to everything here and trying to take it all in. I'm good right now.
From my understanding, when we were at the site visit and everything, though, everything as far as from the seawall out was already taken care of through the conservation and everything else. Everything else has been approved.
Correct. The only segment of this project that is within the ZBA purview is with respect to the side and the rear setback for the
Correct.
pier.
Right.
We don't, the portions over the water, the seawall, all of that, a wall is not under ZBA jurisdiction. So all of those items are not items we need to consider. It's merely
The setbacks.
the setback of the access stairs and the start of the pier on the land.
Right.
And it's encroaching 4.5 feet.
Okay.
Let me see if there's any member of the public who wishes to be heard on this application. If so, could you please raise your hand in Zoom? Or if you're on a phone, ask to be recognized. Don't see anybody. You know, so my feeling on this application is the property has water frontage, may be challenging, but to me, it would be a hardship to not allow them access to the water. And I think that would be justification for a variance. I just don't see that it's adversely impacting the abutting properties or anybody on the cove. That's kind of where I'm coming from. What do other people think before we take a vote?
Sarah, it's Sean.
Yep.
I kind of agree with you. I mean, there's nobody here really opposed to it as far as showing up on the meeting, you know. So I'm kind of going along with your lines. That they seem to do show that, you know, I mean, they should have right to use their waterfront. That's all I got.
Okay, Brian, anything?
No, I hear exactly what Jim is saying, and the use of a variance when perhaps a little bit more thought goes into design could avoid that. But at this point, while I totally understand where Jim's coming from, I don't have a problem with the application as it's submitted.
Okay, John?
Yeah, I think this is just such a unique situation where you have a separate and distinct parcel aside from the main house's parcel. It's, you know, next to MBTA train tracks. It's on the waterfront, obviously. Many other houses in town have their own docks. So it's not uncommon for our town. It is uncommon for us to see these things. I mean, this is my first dock project, I think, in 5 or 6 years on the board. Obviously, the parcel, the shape of it's very unique, but these residents have a right to use their property. And if they're on the harbor, you know, I would probably be doing the same thing they're trying to do. And I think the design, if it passes muster with Concom and the planning board, and you know it's been revised and adjusted pursuant to their comments, then I'm okay with it. So I'm okay with it as it's conceived. Thanks.
Okay, I'll make a motion and then we can take further discussion. I move to close the public hearing and approve the application of Edward A. and Karen Crawley for a variance under sections 5.3, 5.6, and 7.46 of the zoning bylaw, and other relief as may be necessary to install access stairs and a 38.8-foot long by 4-foot wide timber pier with a 10-foot by 10-foot landing on a small piece of their property between the MBTA train tracks and Whittier's Cove, which encroach into the side and rear setbacks to connect to a seasonal gangway and float and raise the height of the seawall at 94 Bridge Street, Assessor's Map number 21, Lot number 5 in District E, filed with the town clerk on March 9th, 2022, based on a finding that owing to circumstances relating to the shape and topography of the land, especially affecting such land, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, a literal enforcement of the provisions of the bylaw would involve substantial hardship by not allowing access to the harbor, and that the desired relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw based on the condition that the timber pier and steps are constructed in accordance with the site plan prepared by Patrowitz Land Development Engineering dated February 27, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ryan seconds. Any more discussion? Do you have any more thoughts, Jim?
I don't even think you need me tonight. Technically, you have enough people. You have a quorum without me.
No, I don't. I
Oh,
need
you
you.
don't?
Nope,
Me
we just
too.
have 5 here.
You need 5.
Yep.
You only need 4 to pass it.
Yep.
No, I'm not going to say anymore. I've said everything I need to say.
Okay. Anybody, any other member of the board have a comment?
Okay, so
Okay,
Yeah, I'm okay.
okay, I will move to a roll call vote. John,
approve.
Sean,
Approved.
Brian,
Approved.
Jim,
Not approved.
Sarah approves. It passes on a vote of 4-1.
Well, thank you very much.
I will write it. Who would like to review it?
I can review it, Sarah.
John will review it. Okay, thank you. So we will write the decision within 90 days. I expect it to be quicker, and then there will be a 20-day appeal process.
Okay. Well, thank you, board members. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
Sean and Brian, are you guys shooting a Sonic commercial? What's up?
No, but we have discussed, John, that we don't want to be invited on a boat that you're piloting.
I don't have a boat, so it's okay.
Sonic, I like that.
We're practicing to be accident dummies.
Got the dummies down pat.
I now would like to reopen the continued public hearing on the application of Seaside Legal Solutions, PC, on behalf of Deegan Partners LLC for a special permit under section 6.1.2, 4.2.3, and 7.5.2, and for a variance under section 7.4.6 of the zoning bylaw, convert a single-family dwelling into a two-family dwelling at 90 School Street, Assessor's Map 41, lot number 87 in districts B and D, filed with the town clerk on January 18th, 2022. At the request of the application, I would like to move to continue the public hearing to June 15th, 2022, and extend the time for writing the decision to September 14th, 2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion. I'll tell you what I've heard from the applicant, if that helps. Apparently, there's a challenge getting into the parking, and that my understanding is they intend to apply to the planning board for a different curb cut.
The dimensional drawing they sent you, Sarah, and would indicate that the building is going to be somewhat smaller.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Well, it was included in the email that you sent out.
Oh, okay.
And I only saw it because I happened to look at it versus the earlier drawing, and it would appear that they moved the rear of the structure, the rear part of the structure that is furthest away from School Street.
Yep.
Moved it further away from the Zone B, Zone D line
Okay.
to create additional space so a vehicle can come in and do a Y turn and back in or nose into one of those 3 parking places.
It's crazy how it zooms in and
Why?
So
Sorry?
that makes sense.
Yeah. It's very tight. It's a very tight spot.
Right.
So I would hope that when the applicant,
maybe.
Huh?
Let's pick up your movement.
when they revisit it, they will give us some new drawings of the building too.
Good. Okay.
But apparently this is only proposed. They're still dealing with the planning board.
I'm not even sure they've submitted an application at this point.
Yeah, they said it was a proposed idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, I noticed that. Anyway, that's all. That's the only comment I had.
So it made sense to continue it to June rather than May, because I don't see how they can finish their business by May.
They seem to be having difficulty getting everything lined up.
Right.
So sure, why not? I'd continue it to June. And that's what you're recommending, right?
Yes, that's the motion.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions from the board? I'll take a roll call vote. John?
No comments for me.
No, we're taking a vote on the motion. to
Oh, it's a
continue.
motion. Okay, yeah, approve to continue. Sorry.
Sean?
Approved.
Brian?
Approved.
Jim?
Approved to continue.
And Sarah approves. Thank you. We now will move to administrative matters. We have 3 sets of minutes, which I hope people have looked at. The first set is from January 19th. Are we good with those minutes?
We are. I am.
I make a
Aye.
motion. What, go ahead. Who was that?
That was Jim. That was Jim.
Oh, Jim?
I'm satisfied with them. I read them.
Okay. I make a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting on January 19th, 2021. Do I have a second?
I second.
John seconds it. I'll take a roll call vote. John,
Yes, approve.
Sean,
Approved.
Brian,
Approved.
Jim,
Approved.
and Sarah approves. The next minutes are from
February 16th.
February 16th, 2022. Brian and John were not at that meeting, but there's 3 of us who were, so we can vote as a majority on these minutes. Do people have any comments on these minutes?
I have not read them for spelling or grammar, but I read them content. I have no problem.
Okay. I will make a motion to approve the minutes of February 16th, 2022. Do I have a second?
Second, Jim.
Jim seconds. Any discussion?
Nope.
I'll take a vote. John, you'll abstain?
Mhm.
Sean, you'll abstain? Brian?
Brian wasn't at.
I wasn't at.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sean was
That's fine.
there.
Yeah, that's why why am I abstaining?
Oh, okay, sorry, Sean.
Yeah,
I'm just watching the bus turn off.
approved.
Brian is abstaining.
I'm standing. I'm watching the bus.
Jim
Approved.
and Sarah approves. Thank you. The next set of minutes is from March 16th. I have one change to these minutes, and that is under the continued application. It says Ms. Mellish opened the public hearing for the application, and it should be changed to open the continued public hearing.
This
For
is
that
Seaside Legal, what you're referring to?
Yes,
Yeah, I agree. I saw that too.
Okay. Any other comments on these minutes?
No,
No, not for me.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 16th, 2022. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, Jim.
Jim will second it. And Sean was not at this meeting, but everyone else was. So I'll take a roll call vote to approve the minutes. John,
Approve.
Sean, I assume you'll abstain?
Yes, I will abstain. This time.
Brian,
approved. I was at this one.
Are you
Jim,
sure?
I'm not sure anymore.
Approved.
and Sarah approves. Thank you. We have no outstanding decisions. Thank you, everyone.
Mhm.
We have one application for our May meeting, which, surprise, surprise, is a swimming pool at 19 University Lane, which I believe is the house next to the house we recently approved a sports court at. The other thing I wanted to raise is the fact that the 151 Bridge Street decision has been appealed. So we will be referring that to town council. It was rather an interesting appeal. It didn't really go to our decision and all the conditions we had in it. So I don't know what will happen on that.
Is that the basketball court?
Yes,
That's right. Okay.
Who's appealing it, Sarah? The neighbors?
yeah, the Bouvets
Okay,
next door at 153. Yep.
not surprising.
Right, exactly. Is there anything else that anybody wanted to raise that I didn't have on the agenda?
I'm good, Sarah.
I'm good, Sarah.
I'm good.
Are the car buddies good?
This is not going to go
Must
well.
be click and
This is not going to go well.
Awesome.
So,
Furniture.
Next time we are going to do this at a Sonic.
our next meeting is a 40B meeting next Wednesday, where we will be discussing the request to connect to municipal water and sewer.
Okay.
And hopefully before that meeting, we will have information from DPW to distribute. It's my understanding that the agenda for the Board of Selectmen tomorrow morning at 9 includes a discussion regarding future intentions for sewer connections, because they are the water and sewer commissioners. But as you know, under 40B special permit, we have to stand in their place to make the decision with respect to this application. That's all I have, and it's still light out.
Yes, it is.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
John seconds. Take a roll call vote. John,
Yes, approve.
Sean,
Approved.
Brian,
I was going to say no. Approved. I want to keep this going for a while.
Jim,
Approved.
and Sarah.
I just want to get him out of this car.
I've been thrown out of worse cars.
Were you guys on a road trip or something?
No, we had other civic responsibilities. We had to, we were at a road, we walked out on a Rotary meeting to come to this meeting.
Oh,
Yes.
I thought maybe you were campaigning and that's your campaign manager next to you.
No,
Yeah.
but he is my designated survivor.
Okay, thanks, everyone. Have a good
Right.
night.
Good night.
Good night.
I,
Good night, guys.
Night.
you are my designated survivor.